Hey boys and girls, it's time for our phonics lesson again. So we're going to dive right in and focus on how the English language can be figured out when you're reading and how we can write it down the correct way when we're writing. Make sure you have your phonics notebook out, the yellow one or red or black, whichever color yours is. Make sure you have that out with a pencil as you're eating your snack so that we can get straight to it. While you're gathering those things together, if you don't have them out already, we're going to go over a couple of the glued sounds that we know. Remember, glued sounds are letter combinations that have a little bit of a change in that vowel sound because of the nasal N or M sound that comes right after the vowel. So these sounds are glued together because you can't really tap them out separately because the vowel sounds sound a little strange because they come right before that nasally sound, the N or the M, or in that one case, the double L, A-L-L, ball. Remember that one because it says kind of the ah, like octopus, instead of ah, like apple. Okay, listen to the vowel sounds as we do these together. Remember, I will talk first and then you repeat after me, and let's get to it. A-N-G, fang, ang. A-N-G, fang, ang. O-N-G, song, ong. O-N-G, song, ong. Good. I-N-G, ring, ing. I-N-G, ring, ing. Good. U-N-G, lung, ung. U-N-G, lung, ung. Very good. A-N-K, bank, ank. A-N-K, bank, ank. I-N-K, pink, ink. Ink, pink. I-N-K, ink, pink. I-N-K, ink, pink. Pink, ink. A-N-G, fang, ang. It's pink, ink. Sorry. O-N-K, honk, onk. O-N-K, honk, onk. U-N-K, junk, unk. U-N-K, junk, unk. Good job. A-L-L, ball, all. A-L-L, ball, all. A-N, fan, an. A-N, fan, an. A-M, ham, am. A-M, ham, am. Okay, good. You notice that even though these vowels sound different than their regular by themselves sound, A, apple, I, U, up, even though they sound a little bit different, there's still a short vowel sound. It's just not quite the same. Today we'll be talking about a few exceptions to this rule. Beforehand, let's go our R-controlled vowels. A-R, car, R. A-R, car, R. O-R, horn, or. O-R, horn, or. And then we have a couple of others that I wanted you to practice too. Very good. E-R, her, E-R, her, I-R, bird, I-R, bird, U-R, burner, U-R, burner. Remember, E-R, I-R, and U-R all say the same sound. Very good. All right, you guys did a great job with that. So I want you to go straight to a word that you will probably know how to spell on your own, but I want you to tap it out, and then I want you to write it in your notebook before I show it to you. And I want you to mark it up with closed syllable, the short vowel, little schwa if you have it. If there is a a digraph or a blend in there, I want you to mark that up. If there are any glued sounds, mark it up. The word, I'll say it twice. After the second time, tap it out, and then write it down and mark it out the best you can. The word is cob, like corn on the cob. Cob. All right, sound it out. K-a-b. Cob. One more time. K-a-b. Cob. Okay. Go ahead and write that down in your notebook. It starts with that k sound, and it has the ah in it afterwards. So what do we know about a letter that makes the k sound with that ah letter afterwards? Cob. All right. Let's take a look at your work in 3, 2, 1. Did you get it correct? C-O-B. Cob. Now look at your paper. Make sure that B is facing the right way. Remember, if you put that top loop on it, it would be just like a capital B, and that's how you know if it looks the right way or not. Good job. Okay, so we know that this is a closed syllable, so we can go ahead and we can even mark this up together, can't we? We'll scoop from the C to the B, and we'll put that little C underneath it. And that tells us, remember, I know J. Cole knows this because he kind of helped us learn this at first. A closed syllable is when there is a short vowel sound followed directly by a consonant that doesn't have a tricky E over here on the end. So it's just a single vowel followed by the consonant, and it makes that short vowel sound. Good job. Now, as with all things, English is pretty tricky, and there is an exception to this rule. In fact, there are 5 exceptions to this rule. So I'm going to talk to you about those right now. The exceptions to this rule are similar to glued sounds in that they are a group of letters that we like to glue together so that we can practice them and remember those patterns. But with the glued sounds we've already learned, those are short vowel sounds. Even though A-N-K, bank, ank, doesn't sound exactly like the A apple I, it still has a good short vowel sound. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these 5 exceptions that are long vowel sounds, okay? There are groups of words or groups of letters that have a vowel and some consonants afterwards that make a long vowel sound even though they look like they should be closed. So we're going to talk about those right now, and we're going to show you how to mark them up. All right, the first word that I want you to look at, nope, that's not it. That was the wrong list. I wrote it down right over here. Keeping my notes in a notebook. I was turning to the wrong page. The first group of glued sounds that is the exception to the closed syllable is O-L-D, cold, old. O-L-D, cold, old. And that does make the word old, doesn't it? But cold is a word that we're much more used to using, I guess, and it's easy to remind us that old. You have to group those O-L-D together to get that long O sound. Very good. The next one is I-L-D, wild, isled. Hear that long I sound in wild? I-L-D, wild, isled. There are lots of other words that have I-L-D in them, and it has that long I sound, so that's an exception. It looks like it should be closed because it's closed in by at least one consonant, but it doesn't have that short vowel sound. It has a long vowel sound. The next is I-N-D, kind, ind. I-N-D, kind, ind. So both I-L-D and I-N-D have that long I sound, and they have a D at the end, but just the consonant in the middle is different. And that is I-N, so you would think that it wouldn't be, because it would be a nasal, but English is tricky, guys, so these are the rules we have to remember, and we'll practice with them. The next is O-L-T, colt, olt, a colt like a young horse. O-L-D, colt, olt. This one's not as common, but you do see it some. And then the final one is O-S-T, post-oast. O-S-T, post-oast. Now, you guys, we will continue to work with these a lot in the coming days and throughout the rest of this year so that you will practice them and know them and be more familiar. But I want to go ahead and tell you that even these exceptions to the closed syllable rule have their own exceptions because OST isn't always a long vowel sound. Think about it. What about this word? What does that say? Not lost. It's not lost. It's lost. L-O-S-T, lost. Now, talk to me about why we have an exception to the exception. English is crazy. We've talked about it before, but we'll practice with it and we will master these skills and it won't be as crazy to us anymore because we'll know the right answers. All right, you guys, now that we know those glued sounds, O-L-D, cold, old, ILD, wild, iled, IND, kind, ind, OLT, colt, olt, OST, post, ost. I'm about to challenge you to work with them for just a little bit. I'm going to give you 5 different words that use those glued sounds. And I want you, oh no, not yet. I'm going to give you one word now. And I want you to try to write it up with me. The word is cold. Cold. Go ahead and write it in your notebook, cold. And you can box up those exceptional letters. And then I'm going to show you how to show that it's the closed syllable exception. You'll still scoop from the C all the way to the D, and you'll still put a little C for the closed syllable. But then you exit out just like that to show that it breaks that rule. Cold breaks the rule because OLD breaks the rule. So that's how you would mark up a closed syllable exception word and letter groupings. COLD, you box in the OLD because it's OLD, cold, old. And then you swoop the whole thing and mark it like you would a closed syllable, but you put an X across that C down there. Do you see that? To show that it breaks that rule. All right, we're going to try to write these down and mark them up together. So the first word that I'm going to use is mold. Mold. Like if a place stays wet for too long, it might develop some mold. Use what you've already written in your notebook for the word cold to help you write the word mold and then to mark it up. Good job. Okay, the next word I'm going to give you is a word you probably use a lot, but we'll make sure that you recognize the exception in this word. The word is most. Most. I miss you guys the most. Think about what you know about those glued together closed syllable exceptions. How would you write that down in your notebook? Ost. Ost. Most. How would you mark it up? Okay, the third word is molt. Molt. Like a bird will molt and shed some of its feathers. Molt. A snake will molt its skin. Olt. Molt. Think about those 5 exceptions. All right, the fourth word I want you to write is the word mild. Mild. I used to order spicy, but now I prefer mild. Salsa. Mild. Isled. Mild. Isled. Mild. How would you write that down and mark it up to show that it's an exception to the closed syllable rule? And then the final word that I want you to write down right now is mind. 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 Good job. And mark it up the best that you can. Okay. Let's check your work. Did you guys get mold? Old. We boxed up the old. We swooped the syllable. We wrote that it was closed, but then we X'd it out because it's an exception. Very good. All right, let's look at most. Ost. M-O-S-T. Very good. The O-S-T. O-S-T post ost. Did you hear that? Okay. And then we would scoop it. We'll put a C and an X. There we go. Good job. Molt. Olt. That O-L-T would be boxed together. We would swoop the syllable, but it's not closed, is it? Because it breaks that rule, so we'll draw an X over the C. Good. Mild. Isled. I heard the I-L-D. mild, iled. Swoop it with the closed syllable, and then we would make that an exception. And then the final word is mind. Well, that's not how you do it, is it? If you mess up, just draw a line and write it over here. M-I-N-D. It is mind. That I-N-D is boxed up. Scoop it, put the closed syllable, and mark an X through it. Very good. It's not always easy. All right, so here's 2 more words that I want you to write down. And I want you to circle the word that has the closed syllable exception. And then I'm going to challenge you to tell a friend why. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, the first word I want you to write is song. Song. Tap it out. Song. Song. Write the word song. Okay, good. All right, and the final word that you're going to write today is the word sold. Sold. Like I sold my car. Not true. Sold. Old. Sold. All right. Now I'm going to leave you with this challenge, and Ms. Redmond, you monitor the length of the time that this takes. But I am going to ask you to circle the word, only one of those words. Both of them have some glued sounds that go together, but only one of them is an exception to that closed syllable rule. I want you to circle the word that is the exception to the closed syllable rule, and then I want you to whisper with your talking partner about why that is. Why is it an exception to the closed syllable rule? All right, get to it, you guys.